everybody, and welcome back to the United Stand. Today we are joined with Fabrizio Romano. Fabrizio, thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you as always. Thanks a lot.
Can't wait to get into the show today. Got loads of things I want to ask you. Also was watching some updates from you last night as well. First thing I wanted to ask is Joshua Zirkzee. We've spoken about him a lot of times on the show. It looks like Manchester United are interested. Is it true that Zirkzee would prefer to go to AC Milan over Manchester United? Is that the player's preference?
I would not say that is over Manchester United. I would say that AC Milan are working on this deal for Joshua Zirkzee since December, January, so it's a long time. They've been pushing for Joshua Zirkzee really for months. He's doing fantastic in Serie A, so Milan had the possibility, obviously, to follow the player on a weekly basis here in Italy. They know that the player is super attracted by this possibility, and also his family. So I would say that AC Milan started working on this deal a long time ago, and this is why they have absolutely the player on their side, in the sense that they have an agreement on the contract, an agreement on the salary. Everything is almost agreed with Joshua Zirkzee and his family. The real issue, and it's now almost 2 weeks that they have this problem, is about the commission of the deal, because there is an important commission to give to the agent of the player, and at the moment AC Milan have no intention to accept this condition. So there is still this crucial point. Meanwhile, Manchester United are working on the deal, have been working in the last, I would say, 2-3 weeks. Obviously, they knew the player, but they started taking concrete information in the last 2-3 weeks, asking about how the release clause works. It's 40 million euros, but how long is the release clause valid? And it's going to be till mid-August, so there is still time to make things happen around Joshua Zirkzee. Also, they asked about information on the salary, the contract, the commission, a crucial point of the story. So Man United are informed on the situation of Joshua Zirkzee. They've still not decided what they want to do. I think this week is going to be probably important to have some internal conversation on several topics, and so also Manchester United can start discussing whether they want to go strong on Zirkzee or not. But for sure, the interest is there, and I would not say that the player is not keen on joining Manchester United. Man United is still a big opportunity for the player, but Milan are there since December, and so for sure Milan believe they are the favourites, but it really depends on this commission story.
Interesting stuff. I mean, in terms of, obviously, you spoke there about how, obviously, Manchester United are looking at different options, not just Joshua Zirkzee, and they've not made a final decision on that yet. We've heard a couple of names, so I just wanted to ask you maybe updates on Maximilian at Hoffenheim. He's someone we've heard about. Jonathan David at Lille, also maybe Ivan Toney, but I've not really heard much about that recently. I mean, is there any updates on any of them players from interest from Manchester United?
Yeah, look, for example, Maximilian Bayer is a player that Chelsea and Manchester United were informed about. Also, in this case, the release clause situation, it was already 10 days ago. So both clubs asked for information about the player. But as of now, on Monday, they've still not decided what they want to do in terms of starting a concrete negotiation with the agents, triggering the clause. So, for example, just to give you some context on Zirkzee, AC Milan already called Bologna to tell them that they want to trigger the release clause in case they can agree on the commission for Joshua Zirkzee. Man United have still not called Bologna to inform them what they want to do. Also, for Maximilian Bayer at Hoffenheim is a similar situation, just asking about the situation of the player, but it doesn't mean that Manchester United will go for him. I think they're considering several options internally before deciding who is the player they want to sign. And another crucial part of the story is how much they have as a budget, because this is also an important part of the story, how much they can spend on the striker. Because at the moment, we keep hearing many names, but we also know that the financial fair play remains an important point for Manchester United. Selling players is absolutely crucial this summer, and so interest is there, but at the moment it's not something imminent. For example, also Maximilian Bayer. Ivan Toney is a name they already discussed for months, I would say. When they started thinking about going for a young option or experienced option, when it was about the experienced one, Ivan Toney has always been considered as one of the names appreciated by Manchester United, but at the moment I'm not aware of something concrete or advanced at this stage, and I think even during the Euros I don't expect anything imminent for Ivan Toney.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff on the striker, and I'll be excited to see what direction we go in that. And obviously the release clause makes things easier for Manchester United in terms of budgeting, because obviously we know that the budget isn't unlimited in this summer transfer window. Next up, I wanted to ask you about the centre-back situation. Is the Todibo deal definitely off? Is there no way around that for Manchester United at the moment?
At the moment, it's off. Yes, they believe that there is no way. They already tried to change the situation, but they believe that it's almost impossible. So as of today, is off. And I can tell you that that deal was more than advanced. From what I heard, was really, really, really advanced on player side. He was super keen on joining Manchester United, but also Man United internally were really convinced to make it happen. So the story even before the FA Cup final was something concrete for Manchester United. Then obviously they're going to play Europa League, and so they had this issue with Nice. But they really wanted to bring in Jean-Claude Todibo. That was a concrete negotiation, a concrete possibility. Then because of UEFA rules, they can't make it happen. So what I'm hearing is that Todibo is already speaking to other clubs. There is interest from Spain, interest from Germany. So he's already considering other options, because also on player side, they believe that with Manchester United is impossible to proceed because of the rules. But it was a really concrete possibility.
I'm gutted about that, because I really did like Todibo. I thought he was a good option. You still there, Fabrizio?
Yeah.
I feel like you're breaking up a bit. Yeah, you're still there. Okay.
Yeah. I think yes. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, gutted about that, but that's the rules, and we've got to try and move forward with that in terms of centre-backs. Is there any other centre-backs that we are in for? Obviously, Branthwaite you've spoken about, but is there anybody else that Manchester United are discussing or going to advance on?
Yeah, I think there are several options. So Branthwaite, obviously, as you mentioned, remains a strong name because the player would like to join Manchester United. Personal terms are not an issue at all. Man United already had very positive conversations with the agents of the player. So Branthwaite remains an option for Man United based on what Everton will decide to do. I think this is an important week for Everton to understand what they can do in terms of financial fair play, also about selling some player, finding some balance for their situation. They always asked for something around 65, 70 million pounds for Branthwaite. So that's why I think Manchester United are not going to pay that. Has to be something different. This is the feeling internally at Manchester United. Let's see how the conversation will continue. What I can guarantee is that the player remains keen on the move and waiting for Manchester United. So it really depends on them now and what they want to do based on Everton position. Then, for example, Bremer is a player that we mentioned many times. If they decide not to go for Branthwaite, I think Bremer remains one of the options. We know the release clause is only valid next summer, 25. Is a release clause between 55 and 60 million euros. But we also know there is kind of private agreement between Bremer agents and Juventus to consider proposals around the same value of the clause already this summer. So let's see if Manchester United will go for Bremer. At the moment, I'm not aware of anything concrete yet, but Bremer is one of the players they appreciate for sure. And I think there are also other options. The dream target of all clubs around Europe, including Man United, is Lenny Jorot from Lille, this super talented centre-back. Man United called also in the recent days to understand the situation around the player. But what they know, Man United, Liverpool, PSG, is that it really depends on Real Madrid. The player wants to go to Real Madrid and he's waiting for Real Madrid. So the only way to make it happen and to enter the race is for Real Madrid to leave the race for Lenny Jorot. But at the moment, Real Madrid are still there and they know that the player wants to join them.
Yeah, I really like that player. But like you said, when Real Madrid's in the race, it's always going to be very difficult. But thank you for that. Next up, I wanted to ask you about the midfield. So what is the midfield option that Manchester United want the most? Is there like one player that Manchester United really have at the top of their list? And what are the options for Manchester United there?
Yeah, I think that also here the real problem is the financial fair play, because at the moment you can't go and spend 120 million euros on Joao Neves, for example. Joao Neves is a player they love. They've been scouting for months, same for Arsenal, same for Paris Saint-Germain. The club who really tried in the recent days also with some concrete contacts to start the process to sign the player is Paris Saint-Germain. But at the moment, Paris Saint-Germain have obviously a big financial possibility after letting Kylian Mbappé leave, and so they saved big money. But for Manchester United at the moment is really difficult, because Benfica want the release clause paid for Joao Neves, so it has to be 120 million euros. Maybe you can negotiate on payment terms, but I don't think it's going to change a lot for Manchester United in this moment. So the kind of dream target is Joao Neves, but I think they will be realistic and consider also other options for that position, because at the moment it's complicated. Then it also depends on how many players will leave the club, because we always mention Casemiro. It's important to understand what happens with Christian Eriksen. Still waiting to have a conversation with Ten Hag and decide his future. As we always say for Casemiro, there is this Saudi possibility. Let's see if it's going to happen in the next weeks or not. And also other options in terms of outgoings in different positions will be important to understand how much money Man United will invest on that position. But I think there are also other options. It's not only him. For example, with different skills, a player they discussed internally is Edson Alvarez. Now he's injured. He got an hamstring injury for Mexico. So at the moment, it's nothing imminent. Also, it's not something Manchester United are already negotiating, but he's one of the players that Erik ten Hag appreciates. He had him at Ajax, so he's a player with some experience in the midfield who can help Manchester United. But at the moment, I'm not hearing anything imminent or close for Alvarez. He's one of many ideas, and he's showing us how Manchester United are also considering other options, and obviously not only dream targets like Joao Neves.
Yeah, I understand that. Obviously, 120 million is huge fee,
yeah.
But he's such a talented player. So yeah, we'll see what happens with his future this summer. Next up, I wanted to ask you about Elise. So obviously, Elise is going to Bayern Munich. We know that, but will Manchester United move for another winger? Do you think, even though we've not got Elise, do you think we'll move for another winger still?
I think it's a possibility, but not a super priority at the moment for Manchester United. So Elise was a big opportunity. Manchester United had several contacts in the recent months for Elise, but then the problem is again the financial fair play. For Elise, you have to pay almost £45 million up front, also £5 million in add-ons, a really big salary. And I think the only option for Manchester United to make it happen was to sell Jadon Sancho and Mason Greenwood already 2-3 weeks ago, at least one of them. And at the moment, they are still in the process for Mason Greenwood to find a solution, same with Jadon Sancho. So the market is going very slow because of the Euros, and this is why many clubs are still waiting to see what happens for their players. And for Man United, that was an issue in the Olise story, because at the moment, they can't go up for that kind of money, not just on club side, but also on player side. And then there is the commission. So the whole Olise package is a really expensive one, and for Manchester United it was almost impossible to proceed now. So I think the priority will be the new centre-back. Then we know about the left-back too. In the midfield, something could happen. The striker is another really important priority for Manchester United. I think if they will be able to make good money with Sancho, with Greenwood, and with all the other players we mentioned, at that point also a new winger could be a possibility, but it's not something super imminent at this point.
Well, I was going to ask you that actually, because there's been rumours about Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka interest from Turkey, I think it is. I mean, is there any truth in that?
Yeah, the interest is there, is the reality for both players. But for example, Lindelof, I'm hearing that the priority of the player remains something different, maybe in different leagues. So he's not accepting any move to Turkey anytime soon. I think he wants to take his time to assess all his options. So it's true that Jose Mourinho is a big fan of the player, but at the moment I'm not aware of anything close between player and Fenerbahce. And for Wan-Bissaka, there is also interest, but also in this case, he's out of contract next summer in Manchester United. He wants to assess all the options. He had some possibilities also in Italy. So I think the Italian market could be a possibility for Wan-Bissaka because he's assessing some possibilities from there. So all these players want to wait and see how the market will move. Now there is the Euros is obviously not helping because Man United want to sell players as soon as possible, but all these players are waiting for the domino to start. It's still a slow market, and so that's why for Man United the issue is also on the timing, not just on the financial fair play, but you want to sell some players as soon as possible, and at the moment we are still not at that stage of the story.
Frimpong's release clause, is Manchester United still interested in him? I know he's playing like right wing really, but in terms of fullback.
Yeah, interest has always been there. Jason Wilcox knows the player so well since he was at Manchester City, so they really appreciate Frimpong. But the only way is, again, with financial fair play space, because it's not a priority, and with Wan-Bissaka to leave the club. So it's not something imminent in this case. Also, the player doesn't want to decide anything during the Euros. So also here, we have to wait probably weeks before we know the future of Frimpong. The release clause is still there, is more than 40 million euros, closer to 45 from what I'm hearing. But at the moment, again, it's not something imminent or close. First of all, because for Man United, it's not a top priority to go for a right back now. They are also very happy with Diogo Dalot. Then let's see how they clarify the situation of Wan-Bissaka, and then we will see what they will do with all the other options. So the appreciation is there, but it's not something also in this case close or imminent.
Regarding outgoings, quickly, obviously we spoke a little bit about the Sancho and Greenwood. Is there any, are we closer to any of them departures yet?
At the moment, I see Greenwood closer to leaving rather than Sancho in this moment. In terms of negotiations, I still expect both of them to leave Manchester United by the end of the transfer window. So for sure, the plan is clear to sell both of them. For Greenwood, there is some conversation with Italian clubs. Every day we see a different link with Napoli, Juventus, Lazio, because interest is there. But all these clubs know how complicated it is to deal with Manchester United when it's about a permanent transfer or loan with obligation to buy, but it's more than £40 million. And then there is the salary and the big sell-on clause wanted by Manchester United. So it's a complicated deal for Italian clubs. So the interest is there, but it's not that quick because of the financials of the deal. Benfica, for example, were interested in Mason Greenwood, but they believe this is too expensive. So from what I'm hearing, they left the conversations last week for Mason Greenwood because of this financial package they can't afford in this moment. So let's see if some other club will enter the story. I think yes. I think it's still a very open race. But for Greenwood, things are moving. For Sancho, I think it still takes some time before clubs will be able to go there and put maybe 40, 45 million pounds on the table for Jadon Sancho. Interest from Dortmund is still there, but at the moment they can't pay that money. So it's going to be, again, a complicated mission for Manchester United to find the best option possible in terms of financial fair play also for Jadon Sancho, but they want to find a solution, and I don't see Sancho and Greenwood staying at all.
So I'll tell you what, Benfica can give us Joao Neves and we can talk about Greenwood.
Yeah, that could be a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. Look, Fabrizio, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really do appreciate it. Sorry, just really quickly. Casemiro, there was a little bit of talk about him not wanting to go to Saudi. Is that true?
No, it's not true for what I'm hearing.
Okay.
Casemiro is keen on joining Saudi, but has to be on his conditions. So he's asking for his own contract. And so the conversation is still ongoing from what I'm hearing. It's never so easy with the Saudis, They're still waiting to understand how much of budget they will have for this summer for that kind of deals. But the conversation is still ongoing. Obviously, Casemiro will accept as soon as he believes that these are the right conditions for the move.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Fabrizio. I hope you have a lovely week and hopefully we can speak all things transfer soon. But yeah, thank you very much.
I hope so. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Well, everyone, that was Fabrizio Romano talking all things Manchester United news and transfer news. Snuck in that little Casemiro question at the end there, and I'm really glad I did because I saw a lot of things coming out last night. And do you know when you just open social media and you see stuff and you think, it's not really got any good sources attached to it, but you think there's no smoke without fire? And I've seen a lot of news regarding Casemiro maybe not wanting to go to Saudi Arabia yet. But I'm so glad that we got that update from Romano because obviously we need a midfielder. The only way we can invest into a good midfielder is if Casemiro departs. Casemiro wouldn't be playing first-team football for Manchester United next season based on how he performed this season. He's on a big wage. It's important. As great as a career he's had, it's important that Manchester United move on Casemiro. So the fact he does want to go to Saudi Arabia, the fact he is open to leaving Manchester United, and the fact that conversations are ongoing makes me think that is going to happen. I think Casemiro to Saudi is going to happen. As soon as it happens, the domino starts and the reference that Romano likes to use, and we can start moving in the midfielder market because it's so important. But what is interesting is I asked what Manchester United's priority midfielder was, and Fabrizio said, it's Joao Neves. Joao Neves is Manchester United's priority midfielder. Unfortunately, Benfica are looking at around 120 million because that's the release clause and they want to pay the release clause. They did it with Enzo Fernandez. They've sold players for big money, Benfica, in the past. They've got a track record of doing it. Joao Felix is another one. They've done that. So Benfica, all I can say as well, by the way, the Benfica not having the financial package to bring Greenwood. Hello? How many players have they sold for big money in recent years? I can't believe that financially they are not in the best place, and that just shows where European clubs are at. But in terms of Benfica and the Joao Neves situation, I would absolutely love Joao Neves at Manchester United. Joao Neves, I think, would want to come to Manchester United. He's got that connection with Bruno. He's not playing for Portugal right now. I think he got a few minutes the other day, which is good news for us in terms of negotiating. But if Benfica actually are in the position where there is no negotiation whatsoever, that deal won't get done. But, if we can sell well, and we can, for example, if we brought Zirkzee in for £34 million, that gives us more leg room to spend on a midfielder because I thought we'd be looking at around 50 to 60 million on a striker at least. So you're saving a bit of money there. We might only go for one centre-back when we're supposed to go for two. You're saving a little bit of money there. So in terms of we're not doing Joao Neves for the release clause of 100 million, but if you could somehow get it to like 80 million with add-ons and a payment plan, that could be a route that Manchester United could go down, because he is a player that we really, really want. And if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, I know a lot of people are saying we can't be spending that amount of money on one player. He's 19 years old. He's got heaps of potential. Like, if he fulfills the potential that we think he will, realistically down the line, you look at that thinking that's a good deal. You have him for like a decade, and if not, you know, you've got, and you know, if at some point he does want to leave, you know, you're going to be able to sell him for a decent amount of money. He's not going to decline in value because he's got massive amount of potential. So nobody talks about the fee when the player performs. Nobody's speaking about Jude Bellingham's fee because he's been absolutely brilliant for Real Madrid. No one's speaking about Declan Rice's fee because he's been absolutely brilliant for Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal paid around 100 million, was it, for Declan Rice? 90 to 100 million for Declan Rice. And he's been fantastic. Whereas people do speak about Maguire's fee, people do speak about Antony's fee, you know, people do speak about Lukaku's fee, because these are players that haven't fulfilled the potential we thought they had when we initially bought them, or the club thought they had when we initially bought them. So if Joao Neves pays off and you pay that money, it works out in a good way for Manchester United. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get near 120 million. I think 80 is like the cut-off, and if Benfica aren't willing to accept that, then that's where we're at, and then we'll have to move for somebody else. And Romano was speaking about that. Alvarez, not going to happen because he's injured, and he didn't really have any other names to give us. So that's an interesting topic to keep an eye on. I do think Man United will make a push for Joao Neves. Also very interesting that Benfica wanted Greenwood, and they came to the conversation for Greenwood. If I was Manchester United, I'd be like, let's try and work something out on Greenwood, and let's knock it off the price for Joao Neves. To me, that makes the most sense. If Benfica want Greenwood, the financial package is a little bit too much for them. Why can't we work, you know, you scratch our back, we'll scratch your back sort of thing. You know, in that sort of terms, in terms for Joao Neves and Greenwood. So that's something to keep an eye on. Striker-wise, Zirkzee could happen. Milan have put in a lot of legwork on it, a lot of legwork. Tony's someone we discussed for months, but looks like nothing's happening there. I think overall that package might be a bit too expensive, and obviously he's at the Euros, so it's difficult to do. Maximilian, I don't see us moving on that, to be honest. Jonathan David, I don't see it. I think Chelsea look like they're interested in Jonathan David, and to be honest, I would be quite disappointed if we signed David. I don't think he's the striker that we need. So I don't know where we're gonna go with that. I think Zirkzee is a very, very high likability. It just all depends on what happens with Milan. We've got the money to pay the release clause. If we can figure out an agreement with the player, then we can get that deal done. If the player wants to come to Manchester United, and Romano said it's not as if he doesn't want to come to Manchester United, it's the fact that they've agreed this deal with Milan for months. So he's all set to go to Milan, but if Manchester United can hijack it and offer him a good deal, then I don't see why Zirkzee wouldn't come to Manchester United. You know, despite where we finished in the Premier League last year, we've got a lot to offer. A competitive striker role in the team. You know, Rasmus is only young as well. I think Zirkzee would fancy himself to compete and get that spot of a striker, and you'd think he'd be willing to do that. You also, you know, the size of Manchester United, it's a massive, massive club. You're playing Premier League football. There's a lot of potential. I think it's a really nice place for that player to kind of envision himself in terms of the prospects he's got. I mean, Milan is obviously a good club. It's a great city to play in. But Manchester United, I think, are a more attractive proposition than Milan, personally, if you're looking at it. And that's just me, not with my red-tating glasses on, that's just my personal opinion. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens on Zirkzee. And I think the reason we're going for Zirkzee, let's be honest, is the money. But I don't know if we can agree anything with the player or get that process sped up, because, like Romano said, the Euros are slowing everything down. Because Joshua Zirkzee's currently playing at the Euros. I know he's not actually playing minutes, but he's there at the Euros. Prospects that we're looking at that are at the Euros, transfer targets that are at Copa America at the Euros, it's really hard to kind of get things moving, because, you know, you're on the phone, it's different time zones, it's everything like this. It's tough. It's better when, you know, you're on the off season and you can speak to the player and you can call up the player and you can have them meetings. But in the Euros, it's really hard, and players are trying to stay focused. What else? Todibo. I mean, we knew Todibo was really advanced. Erik ten Hag loved the player. He wanted to bring him last season, and Man United could have done that deal. It was, do you know what really frustrates me about Todibo is only this could happen to Manchester United. It's the perfect deal. 40 million is exactly what we want. We can't be affording to spend massive money on centre-backs, because, you know, we've got a lot of positions to go and get. 40 million, it was there to go and get. Todibo really wanted to join us, which I love. You always want a player that wants to join you. You know, Sergeant Ratcliffe knew him from Ineos at Nice, with Nice at Ineos, and, you know, he could have come straight in. He's not playing the Euros. That could have been our first sign. He could have been holding up the shirt by now. It was super advanced, like Fabrizio said. It was going to happen. But these stupid UEFA rules stop us from doing it, and it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. This is what annoys me about rules like this, is we genuinely, I don't want to keep repeating stuff that's already been on the show, but we were genuinely going to go for Todibo whether Sergio Ratcliffe was at the club or not. Like, if you're UEFA, you can backdate these shows with Fabrizio to this time last year, when he was saying Todibo and Pavard were options if Maguire left and that we wanted to go for Todibo. You can backdate it. Like, we were always going to go for Todibo. So the fact that Sergeant Ratcliffe has involvement with that stops us from doing it. It's just rules for the sake of being rules. Like, if you read between the lines on it, I know you've got to draw the line somewhere. I get that, but it's so unfair that we can't do that deal that we were generally already going to do. But Savio from Girona, who's on loan from Troyes, gets to go to Manchester City because of a loophole when that's actually planned, and it is because they're under the same ownership group, whereas ours isn't planned. It's not because they're under the same ownership group, but we get punished for that. And at the end of the day, rules are rules. You know, City have found a loophole, and that's fair enough. Like, you know, they've done that. They've been smart enough to do that. United haven't found a loophole. United haven't planned it. So that's where we're at in that situation. And it's unfortunate because he's going to go somewhere else. And he's a centre-back that I was really excited by. He really was. Quick, pacey, really good at covering the right flank, aggressive, young, ready to play Premier League football. I really liked him, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because we're not going to be able to sort that deal out. Euro, again, Man United are interested, aren't we all? But when I said, you know, I think United could win a race with AC Milan, there's no way we're winning a race with Real Madrid. Real Madrid's a much more attractive prospect than Manchester United. So if Real Madrid want Euro, he'll get Euro, and they'll get Euro. And even if they do fall out the race, you've got PSG to compete with, which is his home country. I don't think PSG is that attractive, to be honest, as a player. That's just my personal opinion at the moment in terms of the French league. And then you've got Liverpool, who are playing Champions League football. You've got a new manager. Could be an exciting prospect. So Euro, I think we can basically write off, to be honest with you. Bremer doesn't excite me. I think he's a good player. Doesn't overly excite me, but it's someone we keep getting linked to. So yeah, interesting to see how the centre-back situation plays out. I think we'll buy Branthwaite, and just Branthwaite, I think, honestly, at this point. That's where I'm feeling it. And how would you feel if we only bought Branthwaite? I think we'll end up paying around 60 million for Branthwaite, and I think that'll be the centre back. And I think you know, Maguire and Lindelof might end up staying. I think that's the way it might go. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Frimpong, yeah, you know, Manchester United very, very interested, but not a priority. Winger, not a priority now. I mean, this might not be a controversial one. I nearly said controversial opinion, but I think it was the right move not to go all in for Elise. It's not a priority for us right now. The financial package was massive. I think he's on 220 grand a week. It's not a conversation we should have been progressing with. As good and as talented as Elise is, and do not get me wrong, I would have loved to see him playing on the right wing for Man United. I think he's a good player. But at this moment in time, the right decision was to not go in for that, especially when we hadn't sold Greenwood or Sancho yet. Sancho, you know, there's basically no clubs in for Sancho right now, or else Romano would have said, what a shock. So all that hype around him in the Champions League, well, there's no clubs at our door for him, and Dortmund aren't there either. So that's one that could go on and on and on into the summer. I think Greenwood will go relatively soon. Sancho could roll, and, you know, it might end up being another loan, but he will leave Manchester United. And what else? Yeah, Lindelof, you know, Mourinho wants him, but you know, Mourinho's not going to get what he wants because Lindelof doesn't want to go to Turkey. You know, what I gathered from Fabrizio then is, you know, Wan-Bissaka's only got a year left on his deal. He's weighing up his options because, you know, if he gets to go on a free transfer, you know, there'll be many more clubs coming to the party that are going to offer something because the financial package is better for them. So Wan-Bissaka might think, I have a better pick of clubs if I just wait out another year. Lindelof doesn't want to go to Turkey. He wants to still play in, you know, a more competitive league. I understand that, to be fair. And so he wants to weigh up his options, you know. And people say, I'm going to say player power, and they'll say it's like a negative here. I'm not having a go at Wan-Bissaka or Lindelof for doing this. Like, it's understandable. It's their careers. They can do what they want. But player power in football now is big. Like, if Wan-Bissaka wants to wait out for a year because he thinks he'll have more prospects, like, he can do that, and he has a right to do that because he's on a good wage. It's not good for Manchester United. I think Wan-Bissaka, realistically, we should be looking to shift him on quite relatively soon. Lindelof might think, I'm on a good wage. Maybe I just wait a little bit longer and see what happens. Backup centre back, I can do that. But realistically, we should be shifting Lindelof on now. He's been a decent servant to the club, and he's had some good games for us. But we should be moving him on. But these are players we might not be able to shift because things are slow with the Euros, and because they might sit back and they want to weigh up their options, which is what I kind of gathered from Romano. But interest from Italy from Wan-Bissaka. I think Wan-Bissaka would really suit the Italian league. I think he should go. I really think he should go. And what I would say on this is, there's so many people out there saying, no, we shouldn't sell Wan-Bissaka. He's the best defensive right back there is. And, we shouldn't sell Lindelof because, he's a really good, third choice centre back. And we shouldn't sign this player. We shouldn't sell this player because of this and that and that. All I will say is, I appreciate Wan-Bissaka's positives. I can look at the glass half full side of a lot of players, and Wan-Bissaka did a really good job in that final against City, especially against Doku and stuff like that. I can look at that, but there's a reason why loads of clubs don't come in for our players. There's a reason why we struggle to get a fee for players. There's a reason. And Fred's done really well at Fenerbahce, but there's a reason that there was only Fenerbahce in for Fred and we only got 8 million. There's a reason why our players, we don't get approached by top teams in Europe that are offering to pay big money because they're not as good as what people think. If Wan-Bissaka's, the best right back since sliced bread, why is there more clubs not interested in him? Why? This is where, like, United fans need to take off the red tinted glasses sometimes and kind of understand that. So selling players is going to be tough. I think Greenwood's the only one that's really kind of nailed on, and the rest is up in the air. Casemiro's probably going to go to Saudi as well, which really could help us in our Joao Neves pursuit. But look, everyone, that is Fabrizio Romano. That is the latest transfer news. This week's going to be really important in terms of the Branthwaite deal. Branthwaite, another bid could come in. That's what we're hearing. And Romano said this week's going to be really important in terms of Branthwaite, because what's going to happen with Branthwaite now, it's not going to be a deal that runs and runs and runs and runs and runs and runs. That's not going to happen. I hope. This week is really important because United are going to go back in. They're going to say, look, realistically, what is where are we at in terms of price? United will probably have another bid. If Everton again say, no, it's 70 million, that's what we want, United will walk away from that deal and we'll move on to somebody else. So we'll get clarity on the Branthwaite deal. If the negotiations continue and the bids continue, there's an inkling there that Everton are willing to negotiate. But if Everton again say, look, it's going to be 70 million or nothing, United will walk away from that and we can move on to somebody else. But get in the comments down below what you think. Would one centre-back be enough? Do you think we should go all in for Joao Neves? What strikers should we accelerate on? Let me know all your thoughts down below. I feel like we're actually starting to get more concrete news now surrounding targets and where we're at. And as much as Elise was somebody that we liked, we know now striker, midfielder and centre-back are definitely our priority options, they're definitely our priority positions, which is the way it should be, because that's the priority that we need to go down, because they're the positions we need to improve in the starting 11. And that's not a slight on Rasmus. He just genuinely needs somebody to help him and compete with him. You can't just have one player per each position. So yeah, excited about that. Still no clarity on the left back situation. I think the left back situation, that'll be like an August signing, to be honest with you. I think we are going to buy one, but I don't expect it to happen anytime soon. We'll see. Maybe that'll be a domino effect of the Euros as well. But look, everyone, get in the comments all your thoughts. Hit a like on the video for Fabrizio and providing us with all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Stay tuned because we've got That's Football coming later tonight. Mark will be on there. Also, the 8 PM show and any breaking news as well. Let's hope we hear some news about Branthwaite very soon, because I think that's the one that we're going to hear about the soonest. But listen, everyone, have a lovely rest of your day, whatever you're doing. The weather's absolutely booming here in Manchester. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. Summer has arrived. Euros are on. Get yourself a cup of tea or even a beer. Enjoy your day. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one, everyone.